listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. I gotta tell you something, people. I did this quarantine stuff is getting to me so bad because I'm watching 90 Day Fiancé and I'm tweeting during it. So it's just awful. I just want to get out of this. And so that's about it. Anyway, we have a great show today. Our guest is a very talented actor. You've seen him in soap operas. You've seen him in The Karate Kid. He has this great new series he co-created called Studio City. And my guest is Sean Kanan. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem. So I gotta ask you, the series. When did you decide to come up with the idea?
So Studio City is a project that I've been working on in different evolutions for a really long time. It was originally called Soap Star, and then it was called The Bubble, and it ultimately became known as Studio City. It was originally going to be a 30-minute comedy, and through a lot of discussions with my wife and my partners, we decided that the best way to get this made with the amount of money that we had was to do it as a short-form digital series. And so that's what we have right now. And the first season has 6 episodes, and they're all between 10 and 15 minutes long, so they're really digestible. You know, you can watch the whole show like on your lunch hour, just about on any of your devices.
Now, for you, is that something that because you were in soap operas before, so to do a shorter format, is that easier for you to tackle or tougher?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, the challenge is this: how do you get the audience to connect with the characters and make them multidimensional and introduce, conflict and themes that you're going to be able to accomplish in such a very short amount of time. So with that respect, it is difficult. And, a lot of this I attribute to the fact that we've got a great writing team, and our director, my producing partner, Tim Woodward Jr., is a really talented guy. The editing really helped out a lot. So very much a team effort here. And, we've been really fortunate. We're getting a tremendous positive response from people that are watching it. The voting for the Daytime Emmys just concluded Sunday. Actually, last night they extended it. We were pre-nominated for 6 Daytime Emmy Awards for the actors. We don't know about the other categories because they only announced the actors. And we were nominated for 12 Independent Series Awards. So, we could have asked for more for a first season of the show.
Now, you have some good names in it. How do you go about getting them to participate?
You know what? Really, they're all buddies of mine. I've worked with pretty much everybody in the cast. Tristan Rogers and I are dear friends. Sarah Brown and I work together on General Hospital. Carolyn Hennessy and I work together on General Hospital. Patricia Darbo and I have done more things together than I can count. We've done several films together. We started working together way back when we were both on Step by Step, which was a sitcom. And really, my wife and I sat down and we discussed who it was that we wanted for the roles. And really, these roles were written specifically for these actors. I mean, I really didn't entertain.
Now, how realistic is it to the soap opera scene?
Here's the thing. So often when you see soap operas portrayed in films and other television shows where there's sort of like a soap within the medium, they kind of do it in a way that I think is, it's a little bit demeaning sometimes. The actors always engage in kind of an overly melodramatic, hyperbolic acting, as if to say, we get that when we're doing a soap opera, this is how the acting is, but when we're not on the soap opera, it's not like that. So I wanted it to be really realistic. It's not spot on in the sense that we do goose it a little bit so that it's like about 95% on, but really we wanted to play the scenes pretty straight and just let the dialogue take care of creating, some funny.
Now, you also did some writing in it. Is that new for you?
No, I'm the creator of the show, and executive producer, writer. I started writing. My first film was a film called Oasis Cafe, and then I later wrote a film that Lionsgate distributed called Chasing Holden. So writing something that I've done, for most of my career.
Now, for the show, what do you want the direction to be?
What do I want the direction to be? Well, I want to see if we can take this to a larger format, meaning like a 30-minute format, and then we're trying to decide whether we want to stay with Amazon or move to a different platform, and that's something that we're going to be discussing. I mean, obviously, the coronavirus kind of stopped everything more or less in its tracks. I mean, there's almost zero production going on right now in Hollywood. I want to say Hollywood. I don't just mean geographically California, but I mean in the business. So we're going to have to wait and see what filming in the new world looks like. But I want to continue to tell compelling story that deals with socially relevant topics. One of the things I'm really proudest about Studio City is that we tackle some really important, issues that are very much in the headlines now. We have a great LGBTQ storyline. We have a Me Too storyline. We deal with ageism. We deal with suicide. I mean, it's a lot of stuff to deal with for 6 episodes that are only between 10 and 15 minutes. I feel like we do a really effective job of telling these stories. And for me, it would be a gift to be able to tell stories like this with a longer format.
Well, how hard is it as a writer when you sit there and you have to, as you said, they're very serious subjects. You have to make them compact so you really can explore it. I mean, as a writer, it really has to prove, you have to really must test your chops.
Yeah, absolutely. I always want to do justice to the gravity of these topics. These are things that are, serious issues that affect people profoundly. And if somebody's watching the show and they happen to be personally, affected by one of these issues, and they don't feel that it's being treated in the right way, then I'm not doing my job. I'm very fortunate, like I said, that we've got some very talented writers on the show. My wife being one of them. We've got some people that are all really impassioned by this, and these actors that I'm working with, I trust enough that if within the context of the scene, they've got some suggestions that they think is going to elevate the writing and make the ultimate final product even better, then I'm all for it. I mean, that's why you hire actors of this caliber. It's not just that they're recognizable and can do the job. They bring a certain something to the role that, might not necessarily be initially on the paper.
Now, because you know them, it must be good when you have to eventually, it's popular, so it's going to be more episodes when we get back. It must be great because you know them that they can also probably help expand their character arc.
Absolutely. It's an amazing feeling to being able to employ your friends, and that feeling is only compounded when the thing that you're asking them to do, achieves success. It just kind of validates everything because, so many times friends who are actors will say, hey, can you do this for me? I'm trying to get this thing made. And you do it. They don't always wind up being what you hope they'll be, either because there's constraints with the budget, there's constraints with time. So generally, when you're doing projects that are these projects of passion, these favors almost, the deck is not stacked towards doing the best possible work. We did Studio City. All 6 episodes were shot in 5 days, it's really unheard of. And, to their credit, our actors learned dialogue on the fly. They were incredibly accommodating and just pulled together, and that's what allowed us to do this. And, the fact that we're all pretty happy with the final product just makes it so much better.
Now, I lived in LA for years. I lived in Burbank. Why'd you call it Studio City? Because I know like some of the soaps shot at the Los Feliz studios, But why did you come up with Studio City?
Studio City is a bit of a double entendre. I mean, Studio City is an area of Los Angeles. I lived there for many years myself. Studio City also refers to, that it's studios, television making, etc. Where Bold, the Beautiful, and Young and the Restless is filmed is called Television City. Honestly, I had some other names in mind, and my partner, Timothy Woodward Jr., who was the director, he spoke with some people that are in a marketing department of a film company and ran a bunch of titles by. They all really seemed to like Studio City, and for me, I was just really excited to get it made. And you pick your battles, and ultimately, it turned out to be a great title. People really seemed to like it, and honestly, it's better than the initial titles I had.
Well, it's funny because, as I said, I grew up back east and living out there for all the time. Studio City, anytime people from, East Coast hear studio, it opens their eyes. It can be, it's like anything. They're like, holy crap, like, the old Carson show from NBC Studios. And so it's a great name.
Beautiful downtown Burbank.
Now, how did you and your directing partner, how did you guys get involved? And there's a strong trust between both of you.
So Tim Woodward Jr. is a film director. He's done probably 15 feature films, and I've been fortunate enough to work on 2 of them with him. I did a film with him called Gangsterland with Jason Patrick and with Milo Gibson, Mel Gibson's son. And then after that, I did another film called Beyond the Law that Tim directed. My wife and I had been friends with him for a while and spoke with him about whether or not he'd be interested in doing a short-form digital series. And it really appealed to him because it was something that he hadn't done before. It was a project that was rooted in television, and Tim is almost exclusively a film director. And one of the great things about having Tim on the project is he brought his DP, who does all his films for him, whose name is Pablo Diaz, and the guy's an award-winning cinematographer. So it gave Studio City a cinematic look. A lot of times you see a digital series, and they just seem to have a very consistent style of lighting, which tends to make them all look very similar. And I feel like Studio City has a grittier, more cinematic look to it, which is, for lack of a better word, a little more eye candy.
And the quality does look good. I mean, you're right. You see some of these shows, because I always laugh on Facebook. People are like, your show's on Amazon. And you see it, and you're like, it looks like, old school film school stuff. Yours has a good look.
Right.
I mean, and that's what's important, especially with Studio City, because you're looking at the soap world, so you have to have a more look for it.
Yeah, one of the things that we did was we wanted to give the feel of when we're on the soap opera within the show a different feeling than when we're in the real world. And one of the ways that we achieved that was with music. There's always sort of a very subtle thematic music playing under the scenes under the soap opera, and then there's a lot of times sort of a very staccato, rhythmic drum sound that driving the scenes that are in the outside world, so that there's a clear differentiation between the two. Because most of the characters, a lot of the characters, have 2 names. My character's real name is Sam Stevens, but he plays Dr. Pierce Hartley. And when you're introducing viewers to a brand new show, especially when you're using a short form like this and you're using 2 different names, it can get very confusing very quickly. And so we wanted to make sure that people understood, okay, we're seeing acting that's in the soap opera, and now we're seeing the acting which is in the world outside the soap opera.
Now, what is it like working with your wife?
I love working with my wife. I trust her implicitly. And, to have a creative partner that you can trust implicitly is a real gift. We definitely, things come sometimes from friction rather than absorption, but I think that's kind of the process. I think the best idea it wins, and that's what we like to do. The other advantage is that we're together 24/7 and can always bounce ideas off each other. So we're sort of constantly thinking of ways to make the show better, and what we want to do next season and how we want to promote it, etc.
Now, do you think?
And I'm very proud of her too. She was nominated for several independent series awards, writing being one of them, and we're waiting to see if possibly she and I get nominated for writing for the daytime ending.
Now, did it help a lot coming up with the show because you were in soaps for so long? I mean, you've acted in movies, you've acted on TV, you've acted in everything. But does that help more because you saw that?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been working in daytime off and on since 1992, and it's just baked into me. I mean, there's a couple things that I know in this life. One of them is what it's like to work on a soap opera. You know what I mean? And to be honest, Sam Stevens very much is Sean Kanan. I mean, there's some different stuff that happens to him that hasn't necessarily happened to me, but a lot of this stuff has kind of happened to me, and I, in a sense, I very much am playing myself, just dealing with different situations because I've had almost 30 years plus of different experiences in daytime. I really love daytime. Some of the best actors I've ever worked with come from daytime, and I wanted to create a project that was really effectively a love letter to the soaps. Something that was, not going to be, not going to ridicule them, but really, in a sense, thank them for all that they've given me, which has been tremendous.
Now, how did you get into acting? Was it when you were a kid? I mean, you look like a big guy. You look like you probably were good at sports. When did you start getting into acting?
When I was in high school, I was doing some catalog modeling. I mean, nothing, big time, just sort of Sears and JCPenney stuff. And I got hired to do a commercial, and it was a Screen Actors Guild commercial, which got me my Screen Actors Guild card. And I was 15, so I didn't really understand, what that would do for me. But eventually, when I came out to Los Angeles, I was finishing my political science degree at UCLA. I was already a member of SAD, which put me, heads and shoulders above all of the people that were trying to get into the union. And I was really fortunate that I already had my SAD card. I knocked on a lot of doors, got a lot of no's, eventually started getting some small roles on TV. And my big break came when I got discovered by John Avildsen, The Karate Kid 3, at an open call. And that was a tremendous experience. I was in line with 1,500, 2,000 people all trying to get the role of the new bad guy in Karate Kid 3. And, John had won the Oscar for Rocky. He had directed the first two Karate Kid films. And, he picked me out of the line. I went inside. I did a scene with Ralph Macchio, and I ultimately was hired for the role. And it changed the trajectory of my career and my life. It was very surreal because a year or so before I was a paying customer buying a ticket to go see Karate Kid 2, and now suddenly I'm on the set, doing a scene with Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita.
Well, it's amazing because that stuff never happens anymore. It's like the open casting calls because now everything is, people send, via internet. But that just must be amazing because that is like hitting the lottery because, you were someone...
It's absolutely hitting the lottery. It is without a doubt hitting the lottery. And you really, you're very correct what you said. I mean, they don't really do open calls anymore. And I personally think they did the open call as a publicity stunt. I don't think they ever actually thought they were going to find, a lead actor in the third installment of a successful franchise with lots and lots of money riding on it from some guy that just shows up to the studio. And, on that day, I brought my A game. It happened for me. So
now, what is it like when you go onto the set at that point in, as you said, a lot of money in a major, franchise? What is it like as you being a new guy? I mean, you must be sort of shaking your boots a little bit because, you've done some print work, but it's not like you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got to understand that the majority of the actors had all done 2 films together before, so they were cohesive, they were a team. I very quickly realized just how sort of serious it was. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility between, obviously, learning my dialogue, and one of the biggest things was learning the fight choreography. I mean, it was imperative that every single move was choreographed so that nobody would get hurt. And then there was a lot of pressure. I don't think till really the very end of the movie, where it's the final climactic scene at the tournament, I don't know if they really knew if I was going to be good in the film, because they were really on me. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, maybe they did. I think what they did was, truthfully, I think they really rode herd on me, because I was kind of an undisciplined kid who got this big role based on a lot of charisma and force of personality, but I had only studied acting for a short time, and now suddenly, you're in a studio film. That's like big boy time, and I think rightfully so. They kept a very close eye on me. They, made very sure that I was doing every single thing that was expected of me, and it worked out. I mean, I think they were ultimately very happy with how I did, and the fans seemed to enjoy it.
Now, how did people react to you? Because everyone loves Ralph Macchio. I mean, it's one of those things, especially back then. I mean, you're not used to sudden fame, and now not only do you have sudden fame, but you're a bad guy. How did people react to you when they saw you?
What was interesting about it, Steve, was that Ralph and Pat Morita had done all the press in the first 2 films, and I don't think they really wanted to do that much for the third one. They'd done the junkets and all that, so they sent me around to 13 different cities, and it was fantastic. I mean, here I am. I'm this 21-year-old kid, finally got a little money in my pocket, and they let me bring a friend with me. So basically, I'm flying around to 13 different cities, limos picking me up, doing the press conferences, and it was really terrific. And it really taught me a lot, too, because right away I started to understand and see, how the press worked in tandem with marketing a film, and it gave me some really good lessons and understanding for later in life. As far as people recognizing me, it's kind of like a soap opera, because you've got such a built-in audience. I mean, the Karate Kid had such a built-in audience that people, they really seem to like the character. I mean, he's a reprehensible human being. I mean, Mike Barnes had no redeeming quality. None whatsoever. But I think it's one of the reasons people kind of liked him. I mean, Johnny Lawrence really wasn't a villain. I mean, he wasn't a villain. Mike was just a bad guy. But for some reason, people reveled in his evil.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you said people reveled in, and then I lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said people reveled in his evil.
Now, so you get done that movie.
Yeah.
You're still a new actor. How does that change your career when you come out of the box and you nail that first one? Is it like a baseball player who has a great rookie year, and then you're like, shit, I got to perform again? Where were you mentally when you got done that movie?
I think in a lot of ways, I wish I would have been less interested in going out and sort of enjoying the fruits of my labor than really, really bearing down even harder. I had some auditions soon afterwards, and they were big ones, and I just, at that time, had not studied acting enough. I did not have enough experience. And, sometimes opportunities like that never come back. I mean, I can name one in particular, which was gut-wrenching for me. I mean, I had an audition with Ron Howard, and I just wasn't really ready for it. Unfortunately, I've never auditioned for Ron again. So, Mr. Howard, if you're listening, I would love to audition for you again. But by the same token, I did also have fairly immediate success right after. Francis Ford Coppola was producing a television series called The Outsiders, based upon the S.E. Hinton novel, and there was, of course, the movie The Outsiders, which Ralph Macchio was in. And I won the coveted role of the leader of the Socias, the rich kids gang. And that, to me, was like another dream come true, because I grew up on all of S.E. Hinton's books. And, that was then, this is now Rumblefish, The Outsiders. And, again, I found myself, in a 1950s convertible car doing a big rumble scene with all the greasers. And, it was fantastic. So, you do the best with what you have. And, I continued to work after that, did a lot of television. And then I decided, I really need to tighten up my acting game. I need to continue in class, which I did, and I also took a role in a play. And that really started the beginning, I think, of me, becoming a more serious actor. The requirements for me in the play, the bar was a lot higher than just doing sort of a guest role on television. And the play was very successful, and I was successful in it. And after that, I screen tested for General Hospital, and that's where my career in daytime started.
Now, the play, you sat there, you were in it. What made you, and did you at your one point sit there and go, okay, I really love acting. I've gotten lucky with some breaks. I've gotten on TV. But did you say, what made you decide to walk away and audition for a play? I realized that I needed to start to gain some bona fides. I needed to start to enhance my resume as a serious young actor, as opposed to a guy that's done some roles, but, hadn't necessarily worked real hard on the craft. And I hate to talk about the craft of acting, so I'm not going to do that. But, I needed to pay some dues, basically. And for me, an actor makes his bones in the theater. That's where you learn really to act. And, the curtain goes up, and there's no one yelling cut till the end of the play. And you're doing the play, 4 or 5 times a week in front of a live audience, and it's absolutely some of the best experience that you can get as an actor. I would encourage every young actor, do theater whenever and wherever you can. Now, the soap opera, when you went into daytime TV, what is it like coming on a show that's been on for a long time, and people, you're under scrutiny, especially back then, so many people watched.
Yeah. It was, again, a lot of pressure. General Hospital, very successful show with a very long history that actually started in radio, believe it or not. I believe radio, it was a radio show, and then it became a black and white television show. Just decades and decades before I got on. And the thing that was different about that was there was a tremendous amount of dialogue. It was absolutely not uncommon for me to have to learn 25, 30 pages of dialogue a night and be able to, hit the mark and deliver it on the first or second take. And so, again, lots and lots of pressure. I did it.
Now, how did the people react to you? As I said, I had, what's his name, Taos Pinglis on my show ages ago when I was in Burbank, and it was so funny, like, women were going crazy on Twitter because he was on. Because soap opera people, you have, as we said earlier, there's a very, focused crowd.
I was very successful. I had a terrific character. I was nominated for Best Newcomer in Daytime my first year. And, it was a very special time on the show. It was me, Vanessa Marcel, Ricky Martin, Antonio Sabato Jr., and Steve Burton. And the show was incredibly popular. I was in a very big storyline, and it worked out really well for me.
Now, I read, and I don't know if this is true, but Deacon Sharpe was one of your favorite characters. Why was Deacon one of your favorite characters, and how did that whole storyline start where you ended up being on 2 different soap operas with it?
Well, I've actually been on 4 soap operas.
No, with Deacon Sharpe. With Deacon Sharpe.
I left General. Yeah, I left General. As Deacon Sharpe. Yeah. Well, I started Bold the Beautiful in, I think, 2001. Deacon Sharpe was just absolutely such a rebel, and there was stuff that I was able to do on the show which no one else had done. I smoked on the show. Nobody in television smoked. And I mean, it's not that I advocate smoking, but they really allowed me to make this guy super edgy. Oh my God, I got my mother-in-law pregnant. I mean, I was just a scoundrel, and people loved it. And but he was a scoundrel with a little bit of a good heart deep down. And he did a lot of bad things, but people saw that this was a guy who was, he was sexy and funny and all that sort of stuff, but he could also be very vulnerable. And it just resonated with the audience. And then Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless are kind of sister shows over at CBS. And, there have only been a couple characters in daytime that have crossed over to other shows. I mean, maybe maximum, I'm going to say, like 10 characters in the history of daytime, and I was one of them. And it was really terrific to literally walk across the hall, because Bold the Beautiful and Young and the Restless are on opposite sides of the same hallway at Television City. And so, literally I would pass by old Bold the Beautiful castmates and just take the left where they took a right, and I got to play with a whole new group of wonderful actors, and it was just very exciting.
Now, when you leave one to go to the other, is it because your storyline has grown out of that one show, and they go, well, we want to bring it to a new audience? How does that work? Because you're right, it's soap operas.
I honestly don't know what the inner machinations of what got me over from Bold the Beautiful to Young and the Restless. I don't really remember because it was quite a while since that happened. But like I said, the shows are sort of interrelated on a business level, and so I don't know what the discussions were, but when the opportunity came for me to go over to Young and the Restless, I jumped at it. I mean, it was the number one show in daytime. There were some actors there that I'm really, really big fans of and wanted to work with. I very much wanted to work with Eric Braeden and Melody Thomas Scott and Melody Scott Thomas. Melody Scott Thomas. And I was put in a storyline with the 2 big actors on the show, and it was terrific. And so the character was also a success on Young and the Restless.
Now, being someone who was in soaps, do you think that if soaps had started 5 years ago, they would have flown? Because when you break them down, they've been very racy. They've been very cutting edge. People think soaps, but there's always very good character development. I mean, and people could say, "Oh, that's a crazy character," but it's like, yeah, but you remember it. Do you think soaps now, with the attention span and that everyday long story, do you think soaps would play out if they just came out?
I don't know. I mean, the entire paradigm of television and the way that we watch television has changed. So if you ask me if a show came on at 1 p.m. Monday through Friday and it was a new show, do I think it would be successful? I'd say probably not. Because now it's like I want to watch my show not only when I want to watch it, but on what device I want to watch it. I mean, who ever says, okay, I got to go home on my couch at 1 o'clock to watch a show? The reason people continue to tune into soap operas is because these are characters they know, they love, they've spent years watching and are invested emotionally in their storyline. And the one, I think soap operas do several things very well. One of which is they really connect and hook on an emotional, visceral level with the audience. I think, also they're obviously written as cliffhangers, and so it keeps people wanting to know more. And I think also, soap operas tend to utilize, like we do in Studio City, socially relevant and timely issues, because you're turning out one show a day throughout the year. In other words, on soap operas, generally we take August off and we take another month off during Christmas. But there are shows that are airing all during that time, which means that you're shooting a show and a half a day so that you bank enough shows. And in order to do that, in order to have enough storyline, and to be sort of timely, it allows you to take stuff that's going on right then in the news, things that are really pertinent social issues, and deal with them almost in a real-time way.
Now, do you think because, as I said, you've had these two great characters, that everyone remembers their characters, do you think that's harder as an actor when you go and you play another role? Like, do you ever do theater anymore?
Do I ever do what?
Do you ever do theater anymore?
The last play I did was a couple years ago. I did True West. Actually, Tristan Rogers was in it. I did True West at the Palm Canyon Theater in Palm Springs. And I loved it. It was a play that I had done before. I'm a big fan of Sam Shepard's work, and the thing with theater, it gets more difficult to do it as you're working more in TV and film, because it's a huge commitment. I mean, you're usually going to rehearse for 6 weeks, and then the play is usually going to run for a month. So you're talking about almost a 2-month period where that's your life. And I did do a play once. Did a play called It's Just Sex, and I was also on a show at the same time, and it really was difficult. I mean, I literally would work on the show all day, and then run to the theater to do a performance at night. And I mean, it was exhilarating, but it was also very difficult.
So, we mentioned earlier about Studio City and what's going on with coronavirus. How do you think coronavirus is going to affect the business? I've talked to different actors recently. Terry Kinney and Ray Abruzzo both had, been around. They're old schoolers, theater guys. Yeah. And they had just very different views. How do you think it's going to affect the craft as a whole?
I think, honestly, we're going to get this under control at some point. And I think once it's under control, things are going to return back to normal. I mean, obviously people may have to be tested, but you're going to be able to, much in the way they're going to do with sports teams. You're going to clear a group of people that are okay to interact with each other. That's my guess. In the short term, I don't know. I mean, how are you going to do a love scene? I mean, how are you going to do a kissing scene? How are you going to do a fight scene? You know what I mean? I don't know, and it's one of the concerns I have for Studio City right now. I mean, we have to figure out what entertainment, including sports, is going to look like in the age of Corona. All I can hope for is that we are able to resolve this effectively as soon as possible.
Now, how did Studio City end up on Amazon?
Well, Amazon's a great format. I mean, it's just, so many people have subscriptions to it. It's so easy for people to access. So many people have Prime because they get it when many people get it when they're also, getting their ability to buy stuff on Amazon. It just seemed like a really good platform for us. And so far we're very happy with it.
Now, what would be your ideal situation? I mean, besides saying, get it to a regular network, what would be your ideal situation for Studio City, and which way to go as a growing show?
I think my ideal situation would be that it goes to a 30-minute format or thereabouts. I love the freedom that you have on the cable networks. You have the ability to, you're not censored the way you are on the big three networks. It would be wonderful to have, a plentiful budget where we can, pay our actors well and bring on new talent and, all of that sort of stuff with the bells and whistles to turn out the best possible show that we can. I think that'd be my dream for it. And that, like I said, we continue to tell great story that deals with, pertinent issues and, connects people to the characters.
Well, that's awesome. So what else do you have on your docket besides Studio City before all this stuff happened?
Honestly, that's pretty much about it. I mean, it's been pretty all-encompassing for me. Last year was a busy year for me. Getting Studio City made was a big deal. I also had a book that came out that I co-authored, which was called Success Factor X. And, the book was named one of the 20 best inspirational books of the last 2 decades by Book Authority. That was a massive project. My partner and I went out to 50 people in all different fields and said, what is your best advice about success? And we, have participants ranging from Mark Cuban and Anthony Robbins to, Daryl McDaniels, founding member of Run DMC, baseball players, football players. And it was a huge undertaking getting the book made, getting all the deliverables to the publisher, et cetera. So that's pretty much what I've been doing with my life up to now. And now it's going to be about planning season 2 of Studio City. What
made you decide
I also did a film last year too.
What's that?
I said I also did a film last year too. I did Beyond the Law with Steven Seagal and DMX, which Tim Woodward directed.
Now, what made you decide to write the book? Because it's very interesting.
Well, it's my second book. I love writing. I have trouble sitting still. I mean, I'm always looking for something else to do. I don't like to be pigeonholed, so I like to do different things. I think the different things I do creatively sort of satisfy different parts of me. My dad's an author. My dad has written, 7 or 8 books now, and so it's kind of, I guess, in my blood. And I just felt this was a really unique idea, something that would resonate with people. And the book became an Amazon new release bestseller. I don't know, maybe like 10 days after it came out, and it's just gotten a tremendous reception. It's available on Amazon. It's called Success Factor X. And I really think now, more than ever, with everything going on, it's the kind of book you can reach for, and you can get some emotional sustenance. It can give you some inspiration listening to these people that have achieved so much about how they've done it and what some of their secrets are.
Well, that's awesome, man. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on. I know it's so funny now because, people in the beginning, they didn't want to talk at first because everyone was depressed, but now everyone's getting antsy because any creative person, you get antsy. So I want to thank you. Now, what's you tweet a lot, right?
I do, yeah. If people want to follow me, they can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. It's at Sean Kanan. And I would just encourage everybody, please check out Studio City on Amazon. We're building our audience. It's really a terrific little show. We're kind of like the little engine that could. It's got a great heart, and I really think people will connect with it. If you do watch it, hit me up on social. Let me know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see, because I would really like the show to be responsive to, to the people that watch it.
That's awesome. Well, people, so go check it out. Studio City. Go follow them on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Cooper Talk. My website, coopertalk.net. I have over 790 episodes. Email me at coopertalk.net. And that's about it, people. Stay safe out there. Keep supporting small businesses. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, and take your vitamins. And I'll talk to you guys next time.